Welcome to episode 38 of the horror movie review show. I know what you watched last week. And this week, I've got 3 doozies for you.
To the point where I can hardly remember at least one of them.
It's highly unprofessional.
And the one that I can hardly remember as well is one that started out so promising, but then just went quickly off the rails.
These were your choice of movies as well. You started off by saying, I want to watch something dumb. And it was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we have? Do you even remember?
I'm pretty sure we started with a film called Forget Me Not.
Mm-hmm. Forget Me Not.
Then we saw something called Kingdom Come.
Yeah, every time I hear that title, I just shake my head.
It kind of suits the film though.
So shit.
And the final one, I have to keep being reminded. I swear this is another modern one also, but anyway, it's called Don't Look Up.
2 of them were, I think, from 2009, and one of them was from 2014. I think Kingdom Come was 2014.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I'm pretty sure there's a newer, more famous video or film called Don't Look Up.
Maybe there's probably a dozen movies called Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kingdom Come. They're probably same with Kingdom Come.
So, rankings.
How are you going to get your rankings if you even don't remember any of the
based on what I do
material?
remember of my enjoyment.
Your enjoyment of not remembering?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Forget Me Not in 3rd spot. Then Don't Look Up. I'm giving my gold to Kingdom Come this week.
Bottom place for me, Kingdom Come. 2nd place, Forget Me Not. And number 1, Don't Look Up.
Okay.
That's the correct order. And in that correct order, we will review them.
All right.
So I hope you remember Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come, I do actually. It's the one I remember the most for some reason.
Opens with a guy called Sam, who, you won't have ever seen this before. He awakens in a room in an abandoned building. And he doesn't know how he's got there. And he starts looking around this abandoned, I think it's an abandoned mental hospital, originality again. And he bumps into some guy in a suit in the distance down the corridor. And the guy in the suit says to him, "You took her from me." And then he runs away. Sam tries to run after him. And then Sam bumps into the first girl we see, Jess. And they're like, "Who are you? Where are we? What is this place? I don't know. Everything seems a little fuzzy." You with me at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this the one where they had a really, really slow build up and then suddenly just everyone was awake out of nowhere? Or is that something else?
No, Sam is just, he awakens and he sees the guy in the suit and Jess in about the same amount of time that I described it. And then they quickly come across a young girl, must be, 10? I don't know how to tell
A child.
child's ages. A young child called Celia, and they coax her out the darkness in this Saw-type environment. And they're about to leave when, poof! Sam gets a pole to the face. Then he comes to...
Oh, God.
Well, actually, before he comes to, we then have a flashback of him on a date. And when he's finished the date, he decides to drive her home, but he's drunk. He's had too much to drink. So he kills... his date dies on the drunk drive date. Even though the car hits his side of the vehicle, and she's on the other side, nothing happens to him. And yet she's over. She's done for.
Yeah.
Still with me?
I'm still with you.
Yeah, and then he's in the room and we get introduced to all these other characters.
So it is what I was thinking, yeah, because you meet a couple just one by one, and then after he wakes up from being smacked in the face with a pole, there's suddenly this whole group of people.
Yeah,
there.
they're just everywhere.
Just appeared.
This is one of the problems with this movie, is just there are so many characters, and they haven't even rounded out one character, let alone to have 10 of them. We also get this week in Forget Me Not. There's about 10 main characters in that movie as well. But back to this one though. What do you recall then of him being in that room? where we get to meet all of the other enthralling characters of this piece.
I don't remember much except him being all like, silent, strong macho type.
As in our lead, Sam.
And saying, oot. Gotta get oot.
Yeah, this is a Canadian production.
I think the cat's outside.
People need to get oot now and again.
Pause there.
And it's somewhat... Oh! There goes the mic stand again. That's 2 weeks in a row now. It's somewhat important that you've brought up that this is a Canadian production, for reasons of which I'll bring up later.
Well, I enjoyed that anyway.
Seeing as you don't remember much from Sam just being there and not saying much, what I will say is with the rest of the characters, that there's instant beef. We've got Nadir and Roger, and Nadir accuses Roger of being a gangbanger. He calls him a gangbanger, and then they have a little scuffle. It's broken up, a little schoolyard fight. Then a character whose name...
We should say that the guy who accused him of being...
No, we'll get to that as well, probably.
Okay.
I've got it all in order. I'll remember everything. After the fight is broken up, one of the female characters, whose name I just don't remember anymore because she's the first to go, she's like, I need to go to the bathroom. And some of the men, I think, offer to go with her or tell her not to go alone. She's like, I did everything by myself my entire life. I even birthed myself. She might as well have said that. And she walks off.
I was going to say, I don't remember.
She walks off into the corridor, gets to the toilet after insisting that she doesn't need any help. And she sits down in a cubicle and all this gross brown liquid starts surrounding her. So she leaves the cubicle, opens the one next door, and there's some weird person in there who hands her a syringe, and then she's dead.
Yeah, that was really strange.
She's just been introduced. And then
yeah, but people have to start dying. That's why there's so many characters.
People do have to start dying. You're right. There are so many characters, and you've got to start off from people at some point.
Well, I was going to interject about that. You say it was Nadir and Roger.
Nadir and Roger, yeah, they've got beef.
So Nadir is a massive racist.
He is a racist, yes.
So he's typecast Roger, who is black,
as a gangbanger.
As a gangbanger. That's why he said it.
He's far worse than a gangbanger, I might add. It could have been...
Yeah, that was funny actually, because so basically, can I say another thing? That all of these people we find out after a while have done something like morally questionable.
Yeah, as well as Roger and Nadir and Sam and Jess and the girl that's gone to the toilet to be killed, we've also got Charles the janitor, who has a very dark secret.
Yeah.
Also goes by the name Chuck. Remember him?
Yes, I remember him.
Yeah, remember him. He's also there. So they're all in this room, and then they leave said room. Mm-hmm. And then I think we've got Sam...
Well, they're trying to find a way out.
Yeah, trying to find a way out in his huge saw-type room. Mm-hmm. And you've got Sam, Nadir, and Roger. They go off with Jess.
Right.
2 of the men are armed. They're walking down a dark corridor. They come to a door.
Yeah.
Jess is unarmed.
Okay.
1 woman, 3 men. 2 armed. The armed men make her go through the door first.
Yeah, I remember that bit. I remember that. They like come in with their guns and like, and they like place themselves on either side, like looking all professional. And then like one of them moves behind the door and opens it so that Jess can just pop around and expose herself to whatever potential danger is there, whilst they like lay back and see what happens.
I would have given the writers the benefit of the doubt, thinking, oh, they thought ahead and shown these people to be, not upstanding citizens, but these 3 bozos that wrote this clearly weren't that smart once we get even further into the film. So they go into that room.
But also the first girl who dies, I'm assuming that the way she dies...
One doesn't need anybody.
Yeah, I'm assuming the way she dies and all of that is supposed to like
she ODs.
Insinuate that she...
is a druggie.
Yeah, and that's her like sin or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, that's a bit harsh though. Like, that's not always a voluntary kind of thing. It's not...
Yeah, well, there's a lot of kind of... weird... People are sentenced to weird things in this movie, considering what other people
some of them
have done. Eventually they come across... So we get another character now. They come across a guy hiding in a lockup, and his name is Daniel Levine, and he's quite, squirmy and nervous, suit's all undone, and we don't really find out too much about him. They move on together as a group of 6, 7 or 8, and they're in another corridor now,
This sounds great.
There's another fight between Nadir and Roger breaks out.
Right.
And then Sam's all like, "This is no good for us. It's no good to tear each other apart."
We have to get eat.
So he breaks up the second fight between Nadir and Roger, and they start to wonder, how high up in this building are we? So they find a little hole in the wall.
It's been boarded over.
And they find an object, and they decide to throw something out of the hole and see if they can hear it land, which they can't. And they all start arguing about how high up they are and things like this. And Roger, he can't take the conversation, so he puts his own hand in the hole. And he ends up being kind of like taken by demonic hands for a little bit. He's let go, goes against the other wall. He comes to, everyone's like, freaking out, what is that? Roger then punches the wall. And Sam's not happy about the punch in the wall. He doesn't mind about being grabbed by a demon, but punching the wall's too far. And he says to Roger, "You're lucky you hit walls." And Roger's like, "Why is that?" Sam says, "Because walls don't hit back." Then Roger flips out and he's like, "I'm out of here, bitches." And he goes off rogue. He goes by himself. And at this point, he's off by himself. Nadir then recites something that he's never heard of. Nadir starts talking about, at this point, we should expect a masked killer to come out of the darkness and hack us up into pieces. And he says it kind of like that, like he has no idea that he's referencing anything. He just thinks it's words on a piece of paper. He has no idea, this actor, who Jason Voorhees is. I can guarantee that. You can tell by his performance of those lines.
I want to interject at this point because we get our first kind of twist in the usual escape room thing, which is through these boarded up windows and stuff, like you said. So they're not locked into this one room, like in Saw. They don't have to complete any tasks.
Huge complex.
They haven't heard from anyone outside of the group of them. So basically they're just stuck in this place and it seems to be endless.
Is the lack of tasks a fresh take on this subgenre?
That's not what my point was.
I know.
My point was that the interjection of the supernatural, so it seems almost like this place doesn't exist in the real world because there's no way to get around it in like up or down or out the windows, and when you do try and go out the window, there's, like you sort of mentioned, weird, apparently building scaling demons.
When Roger has gone off by himself, by the way, Nadir is already called him a gangbanger, and as Roger's walking off, he says, "I don't trust his kind." So we get it double-barreled that he doesn't like him, if it wasn't already. We've already had 2 fights. It needs to be broken up. He's called him somewhat of a slur, if you want to call it that. Now they've split up into 2 groups. You've got Sam, Jess and Celia, the little girl.
Which Roger had a hissy fit about because he'd suggested splitting up early on in the movie and everyone's like, "No, we should stick together." And then of course Sam's like, "We should split up now." And Roger's like, "What? Now you want to split up?"
No one listens to a gangbanger. That's the moral of that. Who are the other 3 then who we've got? Oh yeah, Levine, Charles, and Rachel.
Right.
So Charles, as we mentioned, is the janitor.
Yeah.
But he's not just a janitor.
He's a bit of a weirdo.
He's a paedophile.
I was going to build to that a bit, but because also, who was the other guy you said? Who's the smarmy-ish?
Right, the smarmy guy is called Daniel Levine.
Levine, right. So Levine kind of notices in this trio that something is up before anyone else does. And then, we eventually find out that the girl recognises Chuck as, someone who'd abused her when she was a child.
Yeah, Chuck is recognised by Levine, and Chuck, he discounts this, says, "No, we don't know each other."
But let's not forget this whole time the little child is there as well. So we keep saying this stuff, and like,
of course, the little child Celia is there.
The main guy and girl are like her protectors the whole time, and there is one bit where Chuck and the little girl are alone for a bit, and we sort of see him starting his like weird grooming questions and stuff. It's really
when Levine recognises Chuck denies ever knowing him, but then it's Rachel who then sees a tattoo. And seeing that tattoo makes Rachel then have her flashback of meeting Charles / Chuck when she was much younger.
As I just said.
And, you can tell that it's a long time ago and that Chuck is much younger because he's got a backwards baseball cap on and he's got, bright primary coloured clothes on. It looks like he's been styled by the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and he sits next to Yonch and takes her off somewhere. And then she freaks out, and the group kind of split because then Levine ends up with Sam, Celia, and Rachel.
No, Nadir, because they go through this weird tunnel of
I'm going to get Rachel and Jess names mixed up every single time.
They find a pile of just stuff apparently blocking their way in the corridor. Do you remember this, Sam and that?
That's before they split.
Okay, well, I'm going to continue with this bit now.
Mm-hmm.
There just so happens to be a perfect little human-sized tunnel under this pile of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam goes through and he's like, if we make a wrong move, the whole thing's going to come tumbling down and crash us and we'll be stuck forever, so be really careful. And he goes first, the woman and the girl follow, and it's supposed to be Nadir's try. Oh, I should also mention that these weird demon things are in with this pile of garbage as well. So, you hear weird noises and all of this. But Nadir sees a spirit, or sees a person at the end of the corridor, right? And gets distracted and calls over to the group who've already gone through, I'll be back, I just need to go see.
I think Roger sees a spirit first, possibly.
Does he?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But I've got Roger first in the note, so that would say that.
Well, I don't remember what happens to Roger, but I remember what happens with Nadir.
Yeah, crack on.
Yeah, so Nadir follows this child spirit, I think.
Daddy.
And gets to this room where all of a sudden his daughter, we find out, is there. And she doesn't look great. She looks a bit worse for wear. And we find out what transpired is that she was dating a black guy, which, of course, Nadir didn't like.
Doesn't like gangbangers.
He, hit her or something to punish her. She fell down the stairs and died. So he essentially killed his own daughter. Now, in this, I found this one so memorable of all of them because I found it so strange. Nadir, whilst he's having this, confrontation with his ghost daughter, one moment he's like, I'm so sorry, and you kind of feel like, oh, yeah, that kind of sucks. And then she says something and he backhands her again.
Well, she doesn't say something. She says to him, all this, Daddy, because your daughter slept with a racial slur.
Yeah, and then he backhands her, and I was like, great, so he hasn't learned anything. Then he starts crying again. Then he cries again, and she, magically there appears a hangman's noose, and she's, basically egging him on, and he actually does go to hang himself, which apparently clears him of all his sin.
Well, that bit's all a vision, isn't it? I think.
My point being that most of the characters in this die for their sins, but this guy, apparently, just because he was willing to end himself, gets forgiven for the fact that he backhanded her down the stairs to her death, and then backhanded her ghost as well. I mean, this guy...
Yeah, like I say, not only does he backhand his flesh and blood daughter and his ghost daughter, but he also then frames his daughter's date for her death. And by the way, when he's getting loaded into the cockcraft being arrested, he's in heavy jewelry and what is just below shades. He's got the thickest, biggest kind of shade style glasses you can imagine, a wife beater, heavy jewelry, and he's put into the back of what is quite clearly not a police car.
Yeah,
it's quite evident.
But either way, so Nadir survives. And that's all I remember of him now.
So yeah,
does he even come back into it?
Nadir survives here, or he's had a vision, and either after this or before this, Roger, who's gone off by himself, he comes across a naked woman, and it looks like it's a dead naked woman. And then the closer that he comes towards her, there are more naked women coming out, left, right, and centre out of the shadows.
Right.
And then we get Roger's flashback. And he is a serial raper, murderer, necrophiliac. And all of his victims are now in front of him. And they're enticing him to touch them. But he doesn't want to because he's like, oh, I don't do that. And one of them pretty much says along the lines of, yeah, you only do when we're dead. And then they rip his insides out. And that's the end of Roger because he's a very naughty man. Not just a gangbanger, according to Nadir. He's much
No,
more
he was
than
very
that.
adamant that he's not a gangbanger.
He's not a gangbanger.
I'm not a gangbanger. I'm
Yeah,
just a rapist.
because that would that would trash that would tarnish his reputation if he was a gangbanger after what we know about him now.
Right, so that's 3 people offed, right?
So we've got Toilet Girl, Nadir, supposedly Roger.
Oh wait, well, he survives, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then have we found out at this point about one of the characters' like twists? Because that was my second. That's when this became really entertaining for me.
Well, before
Really
this,
entertaining.
we found Daniel Levine in a cage.
Yeah.
We now have an Irishman, a frantic Irishman, just running around the corridors, going, "Oh, I didn't mean it! I didn't mean it! Help me! I didn't mean it!" And he comes across Sam, Jess, and Celia. And he does all that, and then he like runs off again. It runs off again into the darkness. This frantic Irishman just runs off into the darkness again. And that's at that point when Levine starts asking people, "Can you hear the screaming in the distance?" I'm not sure what screaming is supposed to be. I'm still not sure actually because it was never resolved.
So that's when he kind of outs himself as not just one of the group.
It's just after this. So we've just been introduced to Irishman, frantic Irishman. And
He's looking for his potatoes.
And the next time we do see frantic Irishman, Levine has revealed himself as the devil, and he's now, instead of having his floppy hair forward, his hair is now slicked back, and his suit is more put together. I saw, by the way, this movie has a $3 million budget,
What?
right?
What?
It clearly didn't go on his suit, and it didn't go on the poster. If you check out the poster for this, Kingdom Come, and the fucking name, Kingdom Come.
But where did it go?
Where did it go?
Because
where did it go?
These demon things that we've mentioned that were, apparently on the outside of the building and in this garbage pile and stuff.
Yeah, hairy beast women.
They're like
in bandages.
his little demon slave thingies, and they're always kind of moving around. And I had to give it to the body actors that they were moving and stuff really well, but the costume, hair and makeup didn't quite.
I thought the costume was suited a stage production.
Yes,
but in this,
not so much
with the lights shining on them and stuff,
movie.
and loads of $3 million. Right, so we've got hairy beast women, we'll call them, these demons who are at Levine's side, the devil Levine. But then we're back to Sam, Jess, and Celia. Actually, we've gone too far with the reveal. It doesn't matter because at one point, Jess and Sam, yeah, they lose Celia in the wall, don't they? Because the devil man has revealed himself.
Yeah,
he's
so he's revealed himself, and
Yeah.
can I just add that his performance and dialogue are pretty much exactly what you are imagining right now. But it was still so entertaining to me. This trying to be all like dry and humorous, but yeah, so he's like chasing down this trio, and to save the little girl,
before they're being chased down, you've got the three of them in this like locker room,
Right.
and it's revealed that Jess has a deceased husband.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam then says to her, "I saw your husband." So earlier on in the movie,
She's got a photo.
the figure that he saw in the corridor, this man in the
Right.
suit, is apparently her husband, and she doesn't believe him. She doesn't believe Sam. Doesn't believe that he's seen her dead husband, and he says things like, "This place isn't what it seems to be. You've got to trust me." And then she's like, "Why should I trust you when you just bought up my dead husband?"
Yeah.
But they kind of like stuff Celia into a wall because the devil's coming.
Yeah,
and
they
they
think it's going
hide
to keep
as
her
well.
safe.
But they can't outsmart the devil. So he finds her and she shoots down the wall, and that's how she ends up with Charles / Chuck. And he starts talking to her about like tic-tac-toe or something like that, something really creepy.
I want to be your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they do find her again.
Well,
Just in time, it seems.
Rachel comes across him as he's about to,
Right.
maybe take things further, and she stops him and starts beating him, I believe, with a shovel. And as she's beating him with a shovel, Levine, aka the devil, then steps out of the shadows and he's like, slow clap, and he starts egging Jess on. He's like, kill him, just end him. He's like, his fate is sealed. And all of a sudden then Sam, though, he comes out of nowhere, and he's like, no, Rach, it's what he wants you to do. His fate is sealed. So you get the same line from two characters within about 60 seconds. And I'll say it took 3 geniuses to write this script. But then the devil wins in the end. You know, Sam, he can't quite talk around because the devil says to to Rach, maybe you enjoyed it when he was touching you. And then with that ham-fisted dialogue, she then ends Chuck the Jaffa.
And what this means, which is the reason Sam especially was trying to stop her, is that she has now committed a sin and she is also done for. Yeah. Whereas if she hadn't done it, she might have survived, like Nadir.
To which the devil was like, you humans are so easy. And he looks up to God and he's like, better luck next time, old pal. Yeah. And then, so then Sam runs away with Jess and Celia, and the devil is on their tail, and he's walking slowly down the corridors, and he's just spouting about human nature. He's like, you're so pitiful, selfish, and self-indulgent. And then he sniffs a wall. And of course, behind that wall are our 3 heroes, somewhat, and you can smell them.
And gross, really.
At this point, this is then when we have the big
climax.
The climax to this movie.
Yeah.
Which appears to be in a sewer, and the devil has all of his minions around him, the bandaged up women and stuff. And he's all of a sudden he's controlling things with his hands like a wizard. He's like.
Yeah, because his power grows stronger with every death, I think. I think that was this one.
I didn't know that was in the lore of the devil, that his power grows stronger with every death. But he's dragging people along the floor with his magical powers. And he holds Jess up against the wall because she's lost her husband. She was pregnant at the time. And because she's going to be a single mother, she decides, I believe, not to have the baby. So then the devil starts lecturing her on, birth rights, abortion rights and stuff like this, and he's about to defeat them, and then out steps in her white dress, which has been in the whole time, Celia, but instead of being dour in the shadow, she now has this like white glow,
an aura
around her, and she's like, put him down, and the devil's like, you can have him, but she's mine. And then Celia, the little girl, then says, you wouldn't want to see me angry. And then the devil says to her, F you and your God, you little C word. But then Celia, she does the Iron Man, and throws the devil against the wall, and the devil is defeated.
I feel like you missed an important part.
I've probably missed quite a few important parts.
No, for the duo of Sam and Rachel, I think you called her. Because it turns out
Sam and Jess, Rachel is the one that has the experience with Charles.
Okay.
Yeah, I told you I was going to get their names mixed up.
So whoever they are, these two have been kind of stalwarts throughout this whole thing. Turns out, and they find out that when he was drunk driving, Sam not only was the cause of his girlfriend's death, but actually was also the cause of Jess's husband's death. And she finds out and forgives him, and so he is let off the hook.
Also, before the devil gets Iron Man and all that stuff that I just explained, when he is still hunting them down the corridor before he sniffs a wall, he does say, I can smell you, my little meat sacks. So kudos to whoever in the writer's room came up with that one, or unless it was ad-libbed. Yeah.
Gosh. And then the final twist, we find out not only is this little girl like some kind of god's minion or whatever, but Jess finds out
this is her.
This is what would have been her child.
This is her aborted child, but it's living in this saw-like, expansive warehouse.
And the dialogue that ensues from that is just really bizarre as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I've actually got some of the dialogue here, and it's very important that you bring that up. She goes, the girl, she's mine. I suggest you move on before you make me really mad. Fuck you and your god, you little cunt. And then the Iron Man. And then Celia starts to talk to Jess. Yeah. So Celia has been aborted by Jess. But Celia then says, there's no redemption for me. There's redemption for you. And then Jess starts to recognize Celia. And she says, oh God, your face. Those eyes. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And Celia's like, don't cry. I forgive you. And to which Jess is like, how can you forgive me? And the reasons for forgiveness are because you never ignored me. You prayed for my soul. Then it gets a little bit more dramatic and Celia starts crying. And I did rewind it 4 times. But to my ears, what I heard was, you aborted me. But you always loved me. And then the shining light of God comes and Celia then has bigger fish to fry. She has to go to Sam and tell him about the code 172, which I still don't know what that was about. And she sends Sam back to the scene of the accident.
I know what it was about. I know what the number was about. We then get the final explanation because the devil guy did mention, he was like, oh, we're so lucky to get you all in one place because there's no other real reason as to why these people are there. Some of them have sinned, some of them haven't, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that he managed to get them all, well, they'd all been involved in that car crash.
So it all brings it together at the end, yeah, because they're all there because
And so
Charles
the
is there
ones-
split in half with his insides out.
Yeah, so the ones who've been offed in this other world are deceased at this crash.
Everybody's
but, like, Nadir
dead except for
survived.
Nadir. And yet, like you
Just
say,
like I said.
why is Nadir alive for all of this? He's framed a man for his daughter's murder.
Nadir and Jess and Sam.
There's no redemption for Jess, though. You know, as she, like I say. And also the Irishman. Teddy the Irishman. He's the first to go. All he did was gamble. His sin was greed, so he did a little bit of gambling, and of course he deserves to be in there with, the serial rapist, murdering necrophiliac, and the paedophile, and, the drink driver, manslaughterer. Of course we get rid of Teddy.
So the number that she gives him is so that he can find the mile marker on the road, which is where her crash site is.
Dumb.
And then he goes to revive her because she's only half escaped, so he needs to.
But I don't get it because I thought that he had, he was on a date. Jess was married, and yet in the when they sent back,
it must have been another car crash.
Oh, there must have just been another car crash.
Yeah, that's what's only just occurred to me because you're right, because that wasn't the crash. That was So they just got into another crash.
So then Jess and by the way, before they're I'm about to say that they are loaded into an ambulance, but before they're loaded into the ambulance, when Sam comes across Jess, he's accosted by some firemen, and then we get the slow-mo voice, Jess. No, let me go. Then they're loaded into the back of an ambulance.
It was, to be fair, one of the worst examples of slow-mo voice I've ever heard.
And as the doors shut on Sam's ambulance, the driver turns his head, and it's Levine, the devil, and he's like, better luck next time, Sammy, old boy. And he drives off.
It's like something you get in Nightmare on Elm Street 8 or something.
Yeah. This movie was unbelievable. Didn't you put this number 1?
Yeah. I'll sum up what I found enjoyable. I found enjoyable the fact that this was some supernatural thing and the devil things are outside the walls and you didn't know exactly what was going on at first. Then the whole thing kind of just played out on the devil and his lines and performance. It was just so entertaining and funny.
In last week's episode, I was also always saying how Russians were always typecast as evil guys, and this guy got me thinking because the guy that plays the devil, Levine, he's Canadian, but he's clearly gone to put on some sort of British English accent, and we also get typecast quite a lot of times as the bad guy as well.
Absolutely.
So he's clearly gone for that, and yeah, his hamming it up acting. He either knew he was in a massive turd and just thought, bugger it. This is the way I'm going, or he's like some evil genius and he thinks this was good, or he was directed to do something because one of the guys that wrote this also directed it.
Right.
Brilliant stuff. And of course, all people deserve the same punishment no matter what they've done. There is also redemption for Charles the paedophile, by the way. Just because he showed a little bit of remorse. He's like, it's a disease. I don't like it. That's when the devil's like slow clapping. You humans are so easy. So the moral judgment is all over the place on this. It reminds me of that other piece of crap alt-right Christian trash Nefarious, which also had its comments on various issues, if you want to call it that, which is
Sin,
I don't give a damn. I'm talking specifically about abortion, and they like make a movie just to stuff in that point. I don't really care what your stance is on it. Your movie's just a piece of crap. And where's the $3 million gone? I reckon they put it in the collection plate on Sunday. That's where it's all gone. And then from the collection plate, we all know from there it goes to help the needy.
So should we go on to the second film?
Maybe.
The rankings. That was Forget Me Not, I believe, wasn't it? Oh, checking your notes again.
Last check.
God forbid we miss anything about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or any of them, for that matter. Riveting
I've
stuff.
pretty got everything. I'm pretty sure we got everything.
Great, I'm glad you had to check your notes for that.
Well, I don't know why you're talking to the camera. This is going to be cut out.
Oh, no, we don't do that.
Yes, we do.
Do we, Kayla?
So Kingdom Come, $3 million, shit title, shit poster, shit writing, shit movie.
Now can we move on to the second one?
Mm-hmm. Forget Me Not.
Which was so forgettable, it's just...
No, Forget Me Not.
A joke. But I do think this is the one where something you mentioned in the last episode actually does happen, which is probably the most entertaining part of the whole thing. So do you want to get this going? Because I only remember bits and bobs of it, and it's probably not enough to sum it up.
Okay, it opens with another movie with a flashback scene, and it has this child running towards a house, and she has paint on her face, a white face with some black skeletal mouth. And then she gets to the house, and it's like, Sandy? And then we get put into the real world, into modern day, after this. And
isn't this when they're having like a party?
We
or
are introduced to, again, just so many pointless characters who are just there to be bumped off, really. And before we get to the party that you mentioned, there is somewhat of a build-up before the party, and that consists of a character called Eli saying that he would like to be a pirate.
Oh my god, that's her brother. The main girl's
Sandy's brother is Eli, who wants to be a pirate. Yeah, he has this
obsession with being like, I want to be a pirate, even though apparently he's so smart that he skipped a grade in school, and they're having that like dinner with the dean of some university.
He's not 11. He's like 19. He's not 11 and wants to be a pirate, or 7 and wants to be a pirate. He should be thinking about other things.
No, he's skipped a grade to go to college.
More realistic goals at this point in his life.
Yeah.
And then we also see a character called Chad humping a character called Hannah for about 8 seconds before he gets off her, and she looks very disappointed. And then he sees his girlfriend coming down the pathway out the window, who I believe her name... I don't know. I've forgotten her name.
This bit pissed me off.
So then
Can I interject something into
Chad
that moment?
chucks out Hannah.
Yeah, so Hannah's just been having sex with Chad, and then Chad's like, oh, you gotta go because my girlfriend's coming. And she's pissed off, but she doesn't do anything. I was like...
Well, she cries.
Why don't you stay there and, explain to the girlfriend, look what he's just been doing? Because that was it. Hannah thought... He told Hannah that they'd broken up.
Yeah, he told Hannah that, yeah, exactly.
So they had sex when she thought he was single.
Right, so then...
But he wasn't. So I was like, she just wanders off. He doesn't have to pay any consequences.
She does go out the window, yeah, and she's not found out just yet. After that, so we've just been introduced to Chad and Hannah. Now we're put into a family's kitchen, and we've got TJ, the kind of like longer-haired stoner dude, and he's got a girlfriend, Lexi, who's quite loose with the term girlfriend because that doesn't seem to, stop her from going left, right, and centre with a load of other men. We've also got Lexi's dad, who is a cop, and we've got Jake, who I think it must be Lexi's brother, because why would he be in the house at that point? So
there is a brother and
sister.
sister.
Jake is also Sandy's boyfriend. Right? So anyway, as I said, the cop father is sitting at the breakfast table.
Oh, the whole relationship.
And then
was so
Lexi
weird.
comes out and jumps on TJ
Very
and
sexually.
starts like dry humping and says, "Oh, should we make this more like G-rated, PG, or X-rated?" And then Jake and the father kind of look at each other and like, I'm like, what?
That's so gross. She does it so many times. I had to keep questioning. I think you and I kept looking, be like, that is supposed to be their father, right? Like that's not her like daddy. That's her dad.
It's
right?
very strange, yeah.
Because it was disturbing, and it was like multiple times throughout everything where he's just like, oh yeah, my daughter's a slut. It's totally
So at this
cool.
point we've got TJ, Lexi, Jake, Hannah, Chad, Sandy, the cop dad. That's 7 people. Now we get to the party. They talk about there's gonna
like
be
a house party.
There's gonna be a big house party, and Chad's walking through, topless after getting out of the pool, and he's like, "Let's do some fucking shots, people." And before he gets to that point, he's also like slapped a girl's ass, and she calls him an arsehole. And very quickly see a bunch of girls jumping up and down on the bed. Woohoo! They're having a great time. Then I think it might be even Chad who's doing an upside down keg. So that stuff is getting, absolutely
Crazy.
It's getting lit AF.
Rowdy.
It's fire. Yeah. You can't stop this party train. Once this train has left the station, you're not going to stop it. But eventually the party does stop. And our characters are sitting around a table and they're reminiscing about pretty much their time in high school. I think they're about to be leaving high school possibly or something, because they're playing they're playing truth or dare. They're playing truth or dare. And TJ has Lexi, his girlfriend, sitting on his knee while they're playing truth or dare. And it's obviously the question's been asked and she says 9th grade, the 50-yard line. And some guy who apparently is really, really hairy, because she was like, oh, he was so hairy, but he was really, really good. So she's been taken on the 50-yard line for her virginity in the 9th grade. Isn't the 9th grade in America when you're like, I don't know, but over here it was like 14.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about that. But, TA doesn't seem to mind it. And Chad then starts to talk about his first kiss or something lame like that.
Are you sure that's Chad who's talking about a kiss? Because that doesn't sound like it. Surely it was like Eli or something.
No, actually, I think it's one of the girls starts talking about her first kisses in a graveyard, and someone like remarks that why did you get a kiss in the graveyard? And she was like, we were playing the game, and then one of the characters like, oh yeah, I was there, and then she says we were all there, and then Chad goes, oh yeah, the game. Like he's just remembered the game. And the girl's finishing her story about how she got her first kiss, and she was like, you were all there, you'd all been caught, and I was out in the forest by myself just waiting, and I didn't know whether to cry or orgasm. Then they after reminiscing about this game, they then drive to the cemetery to play the game.
Yeah.
I think it's called like Who's the Ghost? Because and now we get to the bit which I got confused last week.
So this is my favourite moment of the whole thing. So you've got this group of teens who've been like partying, they're going off to college. As we've mentioned, we've got a lot of sexualised cool guys and girls.
Sex on the 50-yard line in year 9.
They're in this circle like discussing who's going to do what in the game. And all of a sudden, literally out of nowhere, this girl just like pops up from behind a gravestone or something.
Like
and
a
says,
meerkat.
can I play? I know all the rules. I want to play. And nobody really seems to think just how weird this is. Don't get me wrong. They are a bit like, who is this girl coming out of nowhere? But they very quickly are like, yeah, okay, you can play.
Yeah, because the lads thought there might be, an extra chance for some action. Because what actually happens is when she's like, can I play? I really like to play. It's my favourite game. One of the lads then goes, I bet it is, lady. And then she's like, I know all the best hiding spots. And then the other guy goes, now that's what I'm talking about. Like they're making sexual innuendo out of nothing. But
maybe they're just really excited about this game.
They've sensed a chance for action, so they let her play. So they make
and
those
also, how would you know
innuendos.
the rules to this game that's apparently like their made-up childhood thing?
Yeah.
It's really bizarre.
They get into like a kind of a huddle, and they start talking about the rules, which are just one person is the ghost, and if that person catches you, then you're a ghost, and it's last man standing. But before you play the game, you've got to do the song. Remember the song?
Well, no, I know there was a song, but of course I don't remember the song. No.
Okay, the song before you play is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Unleash the one, ignore thy heaven. 8, 9, 10. Now run and hide, or join her at the devil's side. 11 comes, the clocks will chime. 9 souls are raced by time. Midnight comes, it's not too late. So if something, seal your fate. Ooh! Then they all run off like excited 10-year-olds.
I also would like to point out in this that
Pretty good rhyme. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'd like to point out that whoever wrote this and stuff, they clearly haven't actually thought about how this game would go.
This had a $1.3 million budget as well, so another one.
There was no rhyme or reason. It wasn't like the person who starts out as a ghost has to wait for you to get away.
That's the thing. See,
it's like go, and everyone just starts milling about.
Like you just said, Eli gets Layla instantly, and then I've written everyone gets caught after about 20 seconds, and blonde Sarah runs after the game crasher, who she's now been informed, you won the game, you're the last one standing, and she's standing on a cliff. And this is the point where I got mixed up last week, and I thought it was in the other movie. And the girl standing on the cliff, who her name's Angela, she says to Sarah, "Don't you remember me?" And she says like, "What?" And she jumps off the cliff, and they think she's dead, so they call the police, and the police come, but they find no body.
And Daddy's there.
Daddy's there again.
Policeman.
I mean, he's really put upon. Then we get our first flashback, and it's of the young girls. I believe it's Sandy and cliff jump girl Angela, and they're playing this game in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And Angela has asthma, so we should feel sorry for her.
There's this whole thing. So I think Angela is an orphan, and she's at like some special home. I don't know if it's just for orphans or if it's for people with like some kind of illness or what it is, but she lives there with nuns. And yeah, the two of them met at this graveyard, and there's this whole forget-me-not thing where she's like, these are forget-me-nots, so that you'll never forget me.
The little daisies.
Yeah, and well, they're called forget-me-nots. And
is that really what they're called?
Yeah. You learnt something about floristry today.
There you go. I've got a lot to learn.
And so I'm pretty sure that it was the two of them who make up this game. And again, how can you play a game like this with two people?
Well, the girl from the orphanage will play any game with any person because she's an orphan.
But there's no like letting someone get away. So it's like go, and then you literally you're right next to the person you're supposed to be captured. I mean, no.
After we've seen the game in action, you're the ghost, and we've seen the flashback. We're then back in real time, and Chad is in his car by a lake.
With his girlfriend.
Yeah, with Layla. They've just been getting hot and heavy, you can tell. And he gets out the car and he's like, this isn't working for me anymore, babe. I don't think we should see each other anymore. And then obviously, Layla doesn't like this. So she takes a chain that she's wearing around her neck and she throws it into the lake. Chad is really peeved about this, gets in his car, drives off.
He literally just abandons her, and she's in her underwear as well, might I add. So she hasn't got any clothes. She's just by this lake in the middle of nowhere.
She then, for some reason, even though she threw the chain in the lake, she then goes into the lake.
To retrieve it.
Of course, to retrieve the thing that she's thrown away. And she's taken away and drowned by some dead girl. Some dead girl comes out of the water, and it's bye-bye Layla. So kind of Chad's off scot-free. So there is, every time God shuts a door, he opens a window, and this is Chad's window.
After this first death, we start getting like a bit weirded out because what's the main girl called? Sarah, did you say? Or am I
The main girl?
Yeah, the blonde main...
Sandy.
Sandy?
Yeah, Sandy. Just think about Greece.
So Sandy, obviously, as you would expect, remembers her friends. Although, might I add, she actually never mentions that this girl is missing. She never mentioned that. The other people, she's like, where are they? But no, this girl is just like, okay, she's fair game then. But Sandy's the only one who remembers that these people existed and remembers their shared past. The other friends in the group have all just, when she dies, their whole memory of her is erased.
Yeah. So after we've seen the whole lake death, we are then in the bedroom, I believe, of Sandy, and Hannah is getting ready in the mirror, and they're having a bit of girl talk, and it goes on the lines of, I thought you were over Chad. And she's like, I am. And Sandy's like, so what happened? And Hannah goes, let's just saying I wasn't wearing any panties at the party. And Sandy's like, oh, you did it.
We're going to start pillow fighting. In a
Oh,
minute.
you were so bad. And then at this point, Eli walks in, and Sandy says to Hannah, take it easy on my brother. He's really into you, kind of thing. And Eli freaks out at just the sight of Hannah in a bikini. Hannah plays with him about this. She's like, does this make me look like a slut? And Eli's like, no, I think you look good. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another fire scene.
I also love how she's been spurned by the guy that she wants,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel good, and yet she's like willing to toy with Eli.
And then, the movie, it has so many characters. It had to swiftly move on. So we get that scene, and then we're back to TJ. TJ is dating Lexi. Lexi's one that puts it about a bit, and isn't afraid to be very sexual in front of her own father. So TJ is in some warehouse somewhere, and he's buying a ring for Lexi. Bad judgment. Because he's either got to start exhausting her in bed or just keep her on a tighter leash, because she's just out there just blowing everyone on the 50-yard line. So anyway, TJ, he gets his ring off this old geezer. I don't know where he came from either. He rolls a joint and he starts smoking in the warehouse. And as he's smoking, he's like walking around, everything's like so great. And then he sees this like super fast apparition.
He talks to the pipes and machines like, all right, baby, how you doing, baby?
Yeah, and he blows smoke into the giant
pipe.
Yeah, that guy, TJ.
Okay, I do remember that scene now.
And he sees that fast-moving apparition, and the apparition gets close to him, and it puts his hand and face through a grinder.
No, it's one of those saw.
Yeah, what is it?
Like table saw, I think they're called.
Okay. Table saw. So I thought it was more of like a grinder thing that he went into. But either way, his face gets, destructed.
Yeah, big time. So then he's out of everyone's memory as well.
Yeah, no more TJ.
And I'm pretty sure it's only after this that she like sleeps with some.
But Sandy still remembers everybody.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You did say that. Okay.
Sandy's the only one who remembers.
So then again, I say there's so many characters and there's so many side plots. We just got to keep going. So now TJ's gone. He's been off in the grinder / table saw. Now we're in a driveway outside our house. Chad turns up again in his muscle car. He gets out. And who steps out? Celia. You know Celia. Cecilia. Celia was from the first movie. Cecilia's here. Who's Cecilia? Because we haven't seen her yet in this movie. Chad just turns up. And he's like, hey, it's Cecilia. Everyone's like, oh, hey, Cecilia. And all the girls kind of like give Chad the stink eye because he's just dumped Layla, and now here he is with Cecilia, and previously humping Hannah for 8 seconds.
Although they've apparently forgotten that Layla ever existed.
So the girl tried to shame him. Then the cop dad then shows up in the driveway. Then his daughter shows up. She reveals her breasts, bikini breasts, and she's like, hey, who wants some? And then her dad's like, for God's sake, Lexi, you've got to do that in front of me. And it goes on for a little bit, some inane chatter. And as the cop is about to drive away, he says, and look after my daughter, warrior, keep her on a tight leash. And she's like, only if it's leather, while straddling a bike. Again, talking to her father. Right, got to move on. So then we had that scene.
Please.
Then, as we're about to leave, Jake. Yeah, we haven't mentioned Jake very much yet, have we? But anyway, Jake is Sandy's boyfriend.
Okay.
And he's also Lexi the slut's brother. Right. He's the son of the cop.
Okay. Yeah.
So Jake then offers to race Eli. Jake's on his bike, and Eli's in his car with like 2 girls in the back. One of them's Hannah. And I think it's Hannah that says to Eli, come on, Tiger, race, because Eli's not too sure about racing. And she manages to talk him over, and he's like, I'm not a tiger. I'm a pirate. And then he had the race, and he almost beats him. They race, just luck would have it, they race to a convenience store.
Now, ladies, I have to interject here with a question, personal, and it might just be my opinion, but a guy comes up to you and says, hey, I'm a pirate. Does that turn you on or off?
well, when he first mentions it as well, when he's in the bedroom with some girl, she's not into it first, but then he mentions that he'll wear a bodice, and then she starts to turn around on the whole idea. So maybe that's a thing.
A bodice?
Yeah, I think it says bodice. Maybe he gets the name wrong or something like this, but...
A bodice is what a woman would wear.
I know, but that's what he says. But this is Eli we're talking about. Yeah, so as luck would have it, they've ended this race at a convenience store, right? A corner shop at the end of this dusty trail. But unfortunately, the assistant, the sales assistant or the clerk in the convenience store isn't the one that's normally there who sells them beer. So what can they do? What happens is Sandy has a bit of a moan. 'Cause at this point in the movie now, Sandy is just in constant turmoil. She's either crying or moaning. I want her gone. I hate her so much.
To be fair, how confusing would it be if two of your friends were missing and literally none of your other friends even know who these people are? When you're like, where's so-and-so? And they're like, who's so-and-so?
Before they sort out their convenience store problem, we have another flashback of Sandy kissing a boy in the cemetery when she was a child. And then her friend, the orphan Angela, comes out of nowhere and starts freaking out. She's like, this was our game! I want you! This was our game! And she seems pretty annoying as well. I mean, don't be so selfish. So then that was the flashback we had. So then we get to the convenience store problem. How are they going to get the booze? Don't worry, Lexi has this.
Power
Off.
the pussy.
Yeah. Lexi goes into the convenience store and she's like, hey, how big are your hot dogs? I'll take the biggest hot dog you've got. And he's like, oh, yeah. And she's like, oop, I forgot my wallet. And she turns around and bends over in front of him. And he's like, oh, what's going on? And then she jumps the cashier station and just essentially just takes her away with him. You know, he hasn't got any choice in the matter. Then Yeah, while she's riding him, that's when they obviously just steal snacks and beer and stuff. And it's Eli, and obviously not Jake, because Jake's supposed to be her brother. It's Eli and someone else are watching them have sex through the window. Are you
sure it wasn't her brother?
I don't know. It might have been. But that might be why I was questioning, is he supposed to be her brother? Because why is he in the kitchen at the beginning if he's not their brother?
Yeah, no, he is.
He has to be. And yeah, I think you're right. I think he is peeping on his sister. But I do think after about 40 seconds, he's like, oh, I've had enough now. Like, he finally decides that this is not appropriate, that he should be watching his sister get on with the convenience store clerk. And then it's at that point that Sandy then starts getting mad at Lexi having sex with the store clerk. Because she's like, what about TJ? What about TJ? And it was like, who's TJ?
Who the hell is TJ?
Who the hell is TJ?
Because he's been off, so everyone's forgotten his existence.
That's pretty much the end of that scene. And like I said, we've got to keep going. We've got to keep going. Where are we here? Who's TJ? Right, then Chad's now back in his car. And he's driving down the highway. And he sees something at the side of the road, so he gets out the car. And as he gets out the car, of course, the ghost comes out of nowhere and gets in his car. Then he gets back in the car, starts driving, and he flips it, and the ghost kills him. Mm-hmm. And then that's
another one.
That is the end of Chad. So Chad has just totaled his car, and he's supposed to be somewhat away from the others. Yet just seconds later, they are right next to his car. They've seen that he's died. Sandy's all, oh, Chad, where's Chad? And the others are, of course, who's Chad? Because now he's gone. So he doesn't exist anymore in this world. Then the house that they've previously had a party at, Sandy decides to go to that house with Jake and Eli and Hannah.
Probably to look for one of her deceased friends.
But then they get to the house and it's all derelict. Like, the house isn't put together.
It's been abandoned for years.
There's leaves in the pool, for God's sake. You can't swim in that. There are leaves in it.
She's going a bit crazy. She's like, what's going on?
Eli
Which is understandable.
Decides to crawl across the diving board for some reason, and he thinks that he sees a hand in the pool, and he reaches out for it, and he gets pulled in, and I think Hannah comes and gets him, or whatever. And
got to have the pirate survive, don't you?
Lexi is now, while they go and search the house, Lexi was in the car, right? So Lexi hasn't gone into the house, and she was with Hannah, but Lexi is now pissed off Hannah and Sandy with her, sexual talk and stuff like that. They're not having it. So she's been left by herself, and meanwhile, while the others have been searching the house, she's now seen this apparition by the car, and she gets chased into the forest. and then she ends up falling into an open grave. Mm-hmm. Then the rest of them must have just, luckily come across this grave because they leave the house, see that she's not in the car, they get to the grave, then Lexi is pulled into the grave by hands coming out of the dirt.
Right.
And they all witness it, and Sandy's like, Lexi! But of course, Eli and Jake and Hannah are like, who's Lexi? Right, so now he's gone. We've got to keep this going. What happens next? I mean, this is. Is
there anyone left?
Once it starts, it doesn't stop. This movie, does it? So Ghost bursts out. Oh yeah, and then Sandy's freaking out again. Oh, you don't know who anybody
does Sandy finally figure out the rhyme?
Who's Lex? Right. Oh, they then go and see Zach, the surly cop. But I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a different cop now, because the cop at the beginning didn't have like a thin handlebar mustache. Now he has. And they say things like, the gang are there talking to him. They're like, people are dying. You've got to believe us. Aren't you going to do anything? It sounds like you guys are on drugs. We're not on drugs. People are dying. You get that kind of a back and forth for a while. So he's not willing to help. He's not willing to help them. This new handlebar mustache cop. And
everyone with the tashes are wrong. And
so now who are we left with? So we've got Jake, Sandy, Eli, Hannah, right, and the girl Angela, the orphan, right, who's friends with Sandy from childhood. They find out that Angela lives in a convent. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sandy wants to go, but she's being really annoying, so Hannah doesn't want to go at this point. So Hannah decides to walk off, and to win her back, Sandy goes, "You're gonna die!" And then Hannah stops, and they come back, and Jake reasons with him and says, "We're not going to go to the convent tonight. Instead, let's go to a motel." So the four of them
and not split up.
Head off to a motel,
which
now,
means they're going to split up.
Are you with me at this point? They're now in the motel.
I'm a bit bored, but I'm with you.
Mm-hmm. Sandy, you're going to die. And also with Sandy, he was, I don't understand any of it. We get a bit of that. So we get into the motel. We get in there, and all of a sudden, Eli, the one who wants to be a pirate, the dork guy, Hannah has now set her sights on him. And
Lucky Eli.
Jake and Sandy confess their love, which doesn't last very long because Sandy's just a bit of a twat. Eli then smokes a pipe. He's being naughty. Hannah asks Eli to check out the pool. Okay? Now Jake catches on because Eli's like, I don't really want to go swimming, and Jake's like, come on, just take her down to the pool. Hannah then goes to the bathroom, and while she's gone to the bathroom, Jake says to Eli, "Get over here." Takes his hand. You're just not ringing a bell.
Kind of, yeah. Touch her like this or something.
No, Jake then draws a vaginal diagram on Eli's hand, and Eli's like, "Wait, what is that a vagina? Oh my god!" And then the conversation goes somewhat like this: Jake, I'm sure you know what you're doing. Jake, doing what doing?
You just said Jake twice, but yeah.
Eli, doing what doing? Then Jake grabs Eli's hand and says, "Someone showed me this once." So the first question I've got is, who is this someone that took Jake's hand previously and drew a vag diagram on it?
Yeah, well, we get this in one of the American Pie movies as well, don't we? The Book of Love.
Yeah, there's always a book or something in there anyway. Yeah. And then Jake says to him while he's drawing this diagram, "Consider this the keys to the kingdom." To which Eli, the wannabe pirate, says, "It's like a treasure map." And then Jake says, "Well, sailor, if you follow the arrows, a glorious bounty awaits." So he's got not just a vaginal diagram, but he's got arrows pointing where he should be putting it, what part is what, and so forth. It's like a science class.
I'm sure it's really in-depth and accurate as well. Well, apparently it is, because Hannah does seem very pleased at the end of everything. So
either Eli
did its job.
Either Eli or Jake then looks at the finished product on their hands like, that'll work. Yeah, it's guaranteed to work. Then Hannah appears in her towel and she asks, "Ready?" And then Jake says, "Oh yeah, he's ready." Because he's got the vag diagram now. Now, I'm no Picasso, but I imagine that the vag diagram would look something. No, I haven't really drawn one. I did think about drawing one. Yeah. Then quickly, we've got to move on again. So they go to the pool. We're now out of the motel, into the pool. Eli complains about being cold, and Hannah says something to the effect of, "That's because you're all the way over there." And then Eli starts mumbling again. And then she starts moving towards him. She's like, "How come you never asked me out?" And he's like, "Well, you never seem to like guys like me." And in his panic, he like looks at his hand, but the vag diagram is starting to smudge. But what I noticed was Jake has drawn like fallopian tubes on the diagram. Like, why does he need the fallopian tubes added to the diagram? What's he going to do with those?
Well, Johnny, if you don't know the answer to that, then I can't.
What's he
help you.
going to do with those? And then Eli says something to the effect of like, "Oh, what if we're in danger in this pool?" And then she's like, "Well, we better get to it then." And because then when Eli says to her, "Oh, I didn't think that you liked guys like me," she's like, "I hope you can forgive me." Then she climbs on him, and he's like, "I forgive you." Then they're sitting on the sun lounges at night time, and she's like, "Where did you learn that? Where did you learn how to do that? Whatever that was." And he's like, "A gentleman never kisses and tells."
But he is a pirate.
He wasn't really smoking, but that is what he says. You know, a gentleman never kiss and tell. So he's going to get some more action because Hannah quickly flashes him before she runs off to like get ice or something. But she bumps into the janitor of this motel on the way. They have a bit of a coming together. He's, a little bit ominous. She gets back. Eli's gone back to I don't know why Eli's left the pool area.
I don't know.
What I thought he's been promised. To go back to the motel where like Sandy's having a drama meltdown again, where she's like having a flashback.
Her life is tough at
She's
the moment,
having
Johnny.
another freaking
Things aren't
flashback.
adding up.
And Jake's trying to calm her down, and Eli's trying to calm her down. And while Eli's in the room, of course, what happens to Hannah? She gets electrocuted on a generator. So she's gone, and Eli has now left the room, and as he's left, Sandy rings Eli and is like, "Is Hannah with you?" And Eli says, "Who's Hannah?" Even though he's just boned her at the pool, but now she's been put into the generator, she's not around anymore, so we have to get the phone call to reiterate that Eli doesn't know that she exists
But
anymore.
I swear, like, the whole circumstances have changed. So, like, Eli is back at his parents' house and he's like, "Where have you been?" and stuff. Because she then gets him to come and meet her at this motel, and they drive to the convent to go and see.
No, yeah, I think you've merged two bits there, possibly. Yeah, there's. I mean, like I said, a lot happens.
I'd be quite happy if you merged.
A lot happens in this movie.
Feels like watching the whole thing again.
Let me find out where we are.
Well, we've got 3 survivors now because Hannah's just been electrocuted.
Right, that's where we are. Right.
So I don't even remember. Does Sandy's
Right, so
boyfriend
yes.
survive?
Sandy's boyfriend? No.
He dies as well.
Yeah, he dies.
So it's just her and her brother Eli.
Eli doesn't survive.
Huh. But Eli survives long enough that the two of them do go to visit the nunnery, right?
Yeah, what happens is they go to the convent, right? And they meet Sister Dolores. Mm-hmm. And Eli, Sandy, and Jake all say that they're there because of this person called Angela. Angela Smith, by the way. How much thought has gone into that name for her, by the way? Angela Smith, the little orphan. And it turns out that she's in a coma in a hospital. That's what Dolores tells them. But she says, you're welcome to, walk around her room and search. They find some drawings of some, like, demon monster, which means nothing. Jake goes off with, like, a priest, and he's talking to a little boy. And the little boy runs off.
Yeah.
And he follows the little boy into like, a little church room. And all of these, juddery dead people come out from behind the pews.
Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, church pew, pew, pew. And on the side, what do you call them, the stained glass windows, one of these demons is behind the stained glass windows, and he's having a right...
Shadow dance.
He's having a right dance. He's like... And then his sick moves blast the window pane, and all goes into Jake, and the dancing demon comes out of the window pane and starts making out with him, while he's got all the glass stuck in his face. So now we are left with just Sandy and Eli, after they've been chased out of the convent by Sister Dolores because, they're up to no good and they don't know why they're here. Now we're getting to the crux of what this whole thing
Finally
has been about. So you've got Sandy and Eli are driving to the cemetery, of course, because they need to end this thing. right? Remember?
Aren't they going to the hospital to see her in the coma or something?
Do they go to a cemetery first? Either way.
They've basically, they're like listening to this rhyme again that you say for the game, and they're like piecing it as if it's like broken down. They're
Actually,
like, oh, maybe we have to do something.
They're driving home because they get accosted, and then Sandy gets committed. So what happens is they're in the car, and they're driving after being chastised, and of course Sandy's crying in the car, you know, and Eli's like, Sandy, no one knows where you've been for the past however long, which again doesn't make much sense because Sandy then confesses to Eli what she did.
Well, it wasn't just what she did though; it was what the whole group of them did, wasn't it?
Sandy then confesses, what her and the group all did to Angela in the graveyard playing the I'm the Ghost game all those years ago, where essentially she bumps her head and she has a fit after they all scare her.
Well, hang on. So this game that Angela and
I'm a Ghost.
Sandy had developed together.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy then starts playing with all these other kids who, you know, they've grown up together and they've been playing.
The
And
characters of
Angela's
this
really
movie.
like offended that this has happened because she thought it was their special game. And the group decides that Angela's a bit of a weirdo, so they want to like prank her, I guess. And yeah, half of them dress up in like face paint and as like these demon things or ghosts or whatever they're supposed to be. Sandy goes to get Angela to play the game, and then they scare Angela so much that she runs away, bangs her head, has a fit, and that's what puts her in a coma.
Yeah, and you know, Lady Dolores comes running out saying, "You naughty children! Look what you've done to this poor child."
Where's she from now?
So that's just my holy woman voice.
It started out Jamaican and ended Irish.
So as they're driving, right, they're sitting in this car, Eli and Sandy, and they're trying to work out how they can end this whole thing. So Eli starts thinking. Eli's the guy that had the vaginal diagram, by the way, so he's not very good at thinking for himself, and he wants to be a pirate. He starts thinking, and he's like, what can I do? So, of course, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release the 1. Ignore by heaven. The 1. That's Angela, right? 8, 9, 10. Now run and 10. Run and hide and join her at the devil's side. 11 comes. The clock will chime. Forgotten souls. Erased by time. And then Eli's like, oh my God. That's it. Oh my God, okay, that's it. Erased by time. Now it makes sense. Well, actually, it doesn't make any sense, but I think I know what I've got to do now. And just by reciting the line, all of a sudden, you know, he doesn't know anything. He's emptied his ball sack, and all of a sudden he's Rain Man. He's like worked out the whole...
No, but this is the guy, you know, who skipped a grade and stuff,
he's
and has just gotten
worked
into
out,
like Harvard or something like that.
you know, the whole message of the story and stuff like this.
Yeah, so it turns out what this little jingle means is that
But
Angela
wait, when they get to the end of that part of the jingle, where he's like, I know it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. He then starts going like, people are gone. People I knew, you didn't just know them, Eli. They were your best friends. And now one by one they've been erased. Erased, of course. Erased. So how does it end? Midnight comes. It's not too late. So kill the ghost or steal your fate. Oh my gosh, she's still alive. We've got to kill Angela. It's a very simple. It comes together very simply.
Yeah, and then so they go to the hospital to try and end her. And how does Eli die?
Well, what happens is they get into the hospital.
Because they don't manage,
and
do
they split up again because they don't split up because they go to the house first and they're accosted by their mum and dad, and they have Sandy committed because she's been acting erratically. So then Eli goes with them to the hospital, and Sandy's being carted down on a gurney. Eli's then left by himself, and he finds like some note or something like that. And as he looks up, all of the jittery ex-cast are now coming at him in ghost form, and he mutters the words "midnight," and then he dies. Then we're left with just Sandy in the hospital. She gets up and she finds all the doctors are around her, and someone's like, "Oh, she's been looking for someone called Angela Smith," and one doctor goes, "That's strange. Angela Smith is a patient here." They all leave her. She gets up, goes to Angela's room, turns off her life support, leaves the room. As she's leaving though, boop, boop, the life support comes back on. She goes into the room. She's dead. Or sorry, she's put into a coma. And now Angela is awake. And everyone's looking at her on the bed going, "It's a miracle." And it ends with Sandy with tubes down her mouth because now she's in the I'm the Ghost coma.
Oh my god! Thank
So
heavens that is over now.
If we
That was so
recite,
boring.
if we recite the nursery rhyme again,
This is my bottom pick.
number 2.
No,
For
wait,
me.
it was. Yeah, it was my bottom pick. Yeah. So can we move on because
Well, I thought it left a lasting impression. What about you? You know, the nursery rhyming for one thing, and wanting to be a pirate.
no, there was absolutely nothing new.
The
in this.
inappropriate daughter in front of her father.
Super weird.
Every time a character dies, one character remembering them all, and everyone else just forgetting them. And every time one of them does go, you have to mention who's this guy, who's that guy. Stellar stuff.
So moving on to your number
Amazing
1.
that it's not number 1 on any list, really.
What was number? Oh, don't
Look Up.
I keep
And it
forgetting.
says like starring Eli Roth, who we're fans of. And
This was such
much
a
like I suppose,
disappointment.
I knew it was only going to be for like one scene.
Yeah, so this one started. If you watch our show regularly, you may have watched our vampire special where I mentioned how much I love In the Shadow of the Vampire. And this one actually started out in a similar vein in the sense that like we see an old-timey crew of filmmakers filming a film.
In the 20s.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this might be another keeper. This might be a great one. And it just went, it was so bad. But I don't remember like anything. I just remember it being
Do you
shit.
even remember what it was about or anything
No,
like this?
literally nothing.
When we see Eli Roth at the beginning as a director, in Romania, I suppose Eli Roth was supposed to be a Romanian director, there's a story of some gypsy woman who is under a gypsy curse where she has to father a child with the devil, and she will be given like the strongest man on earth to live out her life with, and she'll live a life of leisure. So the daughter that the devil spawns with this gypsy woman,
Yeah.
called Mattia, I believe, she is then what do you call it? She's like killed by the villagers, you know, lynched because she's devil spawn. Eli Roth, as a director, then goes to make a movie about this, but his set becomes cursed. The lead actress disappears, and the film is never found. 80 years later, there's a guy who's having visions in his bedroom.
Oh god, this guy.
And he's been sent visions by Eli Roth to go to Romania and take a crack at finishing this movie.
This guy was so annoying. Oh my god.
What, you didn't like this character? I thought he was really cool. So the powerful devil force is called Beng, Beng. So this is the thing that has impregnated this gypsy woman and spawned Mattia, right? So our director guy, who's having these visions, when he's having these visions, it also gives him ideas for movies. So when we see him having his first vision, he goes to his like typewriter's computer, is like, "Oh, this is great stuff."
That was me. Carry on.
No, that was it. This
Oh.
is great stuff.
Yeah. I love it when you say that when you're writing script as well.
Yeah.
Man, this is
If
great.
you don't say stuff out loud, how do you know you're doing a great job? I guess you don't remember anything from this then, do you?
No, I'm
Whatsoever.
waiting for you
didn't.
to...
You didn't even fall asleep though. At least when I don't remember a movie, I've got a reason that I was asleep. You actually watched this. Right. So I guess you don't need to be here, really, do you?
I can still bounce off it. Are you going to go through your notes or not?
Yeah.
I did warn you.
Gypsy birth curse. So our character Guy, he goes to Romania, and he's being driven by a chauffeur, a Romanian chauffeur, who keeps calling him Mr. Marcus every time he's on screen. Mr. Marcus. And he got Marcus and his best friend Josh, who is producing the movie, and also he has a photo, Marcus, of the woman from the movie.
It was the one surviving still.
Yeah, and he also has a wife who is sick with cancer, and he goes and sees her, and she's in her bed. He's like talking to her, and all of a sudden his brother-in-law comes in and starts screaming at him.
I don't think that was his wife, Johnny.
Cool, yes, it's his wife.
No, because she'd broken up with him before she got sick.
Okay, well, it's his ex.
Told that in
It's
the
his ex
movie.
then, whatever. And then Marcus and Josh, they're being driven to Romania, and they get to this place, this set which is still there,
Yeah.
this ruin almost. And the driver gets, Mr. Marcus, I must warn you against making this movie because there's a curse attached.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, he goes forth with making the movie, and then Beng the demon, comes out one night, and he confronts Marcus. He's like, "I've been waiting for centuries for a man to come back and make a movie here." And he's got this giant lump
Oh, that
on the side of his
guy.
neck. He has this big
Yeah, so
bulbous lump
he
on
just
his neck.
looks like a kind of old villager
Yep,
guy.
a nutter.
And yeah, he's got that like tumour thing or something.
Yeah, he's got a giant lump on the side of his neck.
But actually, I still think it's worth going back to when you mentioned, so the girl who broke up with him, who has cancer, and he's there visiting, and yeah, the brother, when he shows up, like, "What the hell are you doing here?" It's, oh my god.
What, I mean, that
It
wasn't
was
a scene for the
so-
ages, that one.
So bad that just everything about it, I was watching it in bafflement. Terrible moment of cinema. And then she's like, "Just go, just go." So yeah, I just had to interject that.
Yeah, there's also this crew member who's part of the movie making process. He's actually played by a guy called Kevin Corrigan, who's in quite a lot of stuff. And like he keeps freaking out on the set, and he's threatening to kill people, and all this. He gets banished because he's saying that, he's believing in the curse of the set and all this kind of thing. And we've all been visited by, what I say his name was, Baguette or something like that. Beng. Yeah. And so they start filming these scenes, but as they're filming them, stuff happens, like the lights are going out and the crew are experiencing problems. And then when the editor goes to edit all the stuff, he's seeing images from the old movie from the 20s appear in the new negatives. And he's calling the director, he's like, what's happening here? And the director doesn't really have much of an answer for him, if I'm honest. Just like much.
No, he wouldn't, would he?
There isn't much of an
'Cause it's
answer
not really explicable.
for much of this movie, or as to what happens. So as we mentioned, Marcus is here with Josh to film this movie. We get a scene now where the film is in full flow. And this is why I can't believe that you don't remember it, because they're doing the scene, all of a sudden this woman steps out, and we see the camera from her waist down from behind, and all of a sudden all this stuff just discharges out of her vagina, and then this sack just starts like hanging out of her,
Yeah.
and a baby slips out and goes
Flying across
all
the
across
floor.
the floor of the room with like its umbilical cord attachment and stuff.
Oh,
the baby
God.
hits its head, it's like meh, 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 meh.
And they're
And then
happy
they
with
cut.
that. They were happy with that shot. They were like,
Great
"That was great.
scene.
That was
That's a
great.
great
I was
scene.
like, oh my god, he's making an absolute piece of trash
Ugh.
movie," because that was shocking. And I swear that's not the only time that kind of thing happens in this film.
But
They show
one of
like
the-
a
one-
really bizarre.
I think there's somewhat of a reason, because at the beginning
Body
you get
fluids.
some kind of like written prologue, and it says that the gypsy curse affects some kind of like, it's something like birthing defect or something like that. Yeah, so
Right.
so they do write something in there, but they never come back to it. So they cut, and that's when they look at their dailies at that point, and that's when they see the other movie in there with them. And Marcus, though, he's not convinced that it's just a freak occurrence. He's convinced that it's something different. He's starting to believe.
Yeah, because it's kind of tying in with his
in the
visions and
curse.
stuff, isn't it?
And then
So-
we're left with the editor who's, brought up this problem, and he's killed by a bunch of flies. So all these flies just start coming. So he's looking at a vision of a woman's close-up eye, and it has a fly at the bottom. It's very much like from Ring. They're just stolen this image from Ring, basically. The fly starts to come alive from her eye. He steps back, and all of a sudden a whole horde of them come at him, and he's dead.
CGI flies.
Yeah. Then Kevin Corrigan then has a fight with the Romanian driver because he believes in the curse, and he's banished. Oh no, he's killed by a falling light.
I was going to say,
He's killed by
people
a falling
are
light.
dying and disappearing and stuff, so all of the native crew
Yeah.
and extras and whatever are kind of packing
At
it
this
in
point,
until
Marcus is freaked.
the producer is like, "I'll double your salaries," and then
Yeah.
apparently it's worth the risk.
Josh talks him into finishing the movie and talks the rest of them into finishing the movie. But then the driver is killed in the basement. I haven't written how. Josh gets everyone to finish the movie. Then remember the kind of like hot ginger Romanian interviewer girl She falls off a raft on the set. She's gone.
That's just your memory of
she
her.
falls from the set, and then so that's the last straw for the crew. So Josh has got more to stay when the ginger girl falls off of this raft,
And that's it.
and that's it. Everyone is like, right, I'm out of here. And then not just are the crew going home, but the whole town revolts and they start attacking the crew members and
kind of like a
and all this
Dracula
kind of
type
stuff.
thing.
Yeah.
And also, the lead actress of this production seems to have a sort of a thing for Marcus, right?
Yep.
Seems to have a thing for Marcus.
Marcus. Bless you.
Thank you. Seems to have a thing for Marcus, and as the movie goes on, I seem to remember that she's sort of let slip that maybe she knows something more about what's going on. And I don't know if you wanted to say something else before, because the
I was
only
just
other
going to
thing I
say that
remember is
Neck Man returns at this point.
yeah, he's been there a couple of times.
And that's when Marcus takes like a cleaver and hacks off the guy's bulbous lump on the side of his neck. And we're shown the inside of it. And also that looks kind of, vaginal.
It looked just really weird.
Yeah.
But the guy liked it, I think. He liked having it cut off.
Then flies come again.
Yeah, so it turns out, I think, that this lead actress is the new, gypsy body who's supposed to spawn the devil's baby, but with Marcus' seed?
So yeah, pretty much.
So she's been trying to seduce him?
And the way we see this is, we just had the guy's neck thing hacked off, and the next vision he sees, he's back on the set, and out steps another woman with a baby hanging out of her vagina.
That was it. I knew there was something else weird.
And she starts running after him with this sack, and this baby in a sack between her legs, and I'm pretty sure that bursts as well then. And again, I don't know why that's happening. I don't know why anything is really happening in this movie. It's probably quite a good explanation. This film was directed by called Fruit Chan, right? And he directed a quite infamous movie called Dumplings. I don't know if you heard of that. Yeah, that's a pretty infamous movie. So he's in charge of this movie. It's a remake of an old Japanese movie. So you've got a Chinese man in charge of a Japanese movie, financed by Hong Kong, South Africa, and America. So it's no wonder that stuff got jumbled in this. That nothing ever goes anywhere. There were just women running around with babies hanging out of the vaginas at every moment.
Yeah, that was so
guys
weird.
with stuff on their necks for no reason.
And also, doesn't that guy...
Flies everywhere.
The guy with the neck
Bang.
thing, Bang, he also, gets... influences people. So, he makes people get aggressive and start attacking each other.
Very
So he's,
naughty man.
causing everything to fall apart.
After all of these dark visions that Marcus has had, the most recent one being another vaginal sac hanging, then some sunlight comes into the set, and there it is, who I thought was his wife, the one with cancer, but you just said is his ex. She appears, and he walks up to her and he's like,
Oh God.
and he's hugging her, he's like, it's so good to see you.
And then we cut
la, 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 la.
someone else, and then it cuts back to him, and it's literally like this. There's no one there, but he's still like this, and he's like, wait, what?
The guy's like, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm holding Hannah. And he's like, no, there's no one there.
That made me sigh so hard when we watched that bit. I was like, they haven't even tried. That was so painful. And then, of course, we get flashbacks to...
I was moved.
She's been gone the whole time. So, we see that scene that we mentioned early on where he goes to see her, and the brother comes in and is like, what are you doing here? She was never there.
Yeah, she was never there. It's like The Sixth Sense. He sees dead people or whatever. So, at this point, the movie's pretty much resolved. And the way it's resolved is the hot Romanian actress who wanted Marcus, right?
Yeah, he's supposed to spawn.
They are now
Devil
together in a hotel room or a bedroom, whatever. They're naked and they both have giant lumpy necks. The end.
But what does that actually signify? I don't get it, because it seemed like he was saying take the baby, make the baby, but then they've got neck lumps, and where's the baby coming from? It's very confusing.
Well, let's go through it. So you've got a gypsy curse, then you've got a guy in his 20s who wants to make a movie about the gypsy curse.
Yeah.
Gets cursed, doesn't get to make it. Then 8 years later, you've got Marcus who wants to make a movie about this gypsy curse. And it's been this long that
Beng's
couldn't
been
get
waiting for
couldn't
a
get
movie
anyone
maker.
to spawn his devil child. He needs a movie production to come to his small part of town
'Cause that's the only
in
way that it could
Transylvania,
possibly happen.
so that he can spawn, baby Gilgamesh or whatever, so that he doesn't have to have all these brawls running around his own town with hanging out sacks in between their legs. He can send it off to somewhere else. Now it's Marcus's problem. He's got the Romanian hot actress girl. They'll deal with it. And the movie doesn't get made, obviously, because there were too many problems. And there was also the crew all quit.
Well, it all seemed to happen very quickly as well. Like, they wouldn't have gotten much footage before
But
everything completely went apart.
That leaves opportunity open for another auteur to come along, take this story by the reins and really get out of it what you're supposed to get out of it. And, by the way, yeah, Eli Roth stars in. I knew he was going to be in it for like 1 second. I mean, not that I really want to see him act. He's not an actor. But still, it was nice to see him in that pencil-thin mustache that he had.
It wasn't his best performance.
Well, what's his best performance? I don't know. Cabin Fever, probably, right? Ooh, face!
Yeah, that's great. He
Yes.
doesn't do a bad job in that one where he plays like a big menacing Jew or something either, does he?
Inglourious Bastards. Yeah, he's the bear Jew. But still, Cabin Fever is the best one. That's a positive bonfire.
Well, either way, it wasn't this one.
Yeah, and we know that he's been taken by the curse as well, because when he's filming the movie, he runs out to the riverside, and there's some apparition across the other side of the riverbank, and he has this look on his face like, oh, me Tash, we're not going to survive this. Yeah, then the footage is lost, and for all I cared, I mean, the footage of this movie could have been lost and never seen again. Although, it had to be number one for me, because I've never seen a movie where women walk around with babies hanging out of sacks out of their vagina. So
Twice.
top marks for that alone. And also, I do like my movies to be somewhat weird and not make sense, but this was just... It doesn't make sense. And it's just weird for weird's sake. But still, number one, weird stuff in it. Worth seeing for that, I'd say. More so than the other two movies.
If you say
So you've missed a right good in here.
Do you want to give us a little insight into whether next week's picks will be any better?
Less vaginal stuff, whether that be diagrams or sacks.
Do you know that for a fact, though?
Yeah, I know it for a fact if I go with what I'm going with.
Okay.
Actually, no, you're right. I don't know it for a fact. There could well be some vaginal diagrams in these movies coming forth, but I think I want to go with a franchise 3. So 3 movies from the same franchise, be it, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Chucky, whatever. And it won't be, the first 3 of them. It's going to be the later movies.
Oh, no.
Ones that I haven't seen.
Cool.
Yeah, so it would be nice next week if you pay some attention.